Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As you are joining our webinar today, if you could please put down in the chat just a quick introduction of yourself and your contact information. Thank you. We'll just give it another minute to let some folks who are joining us join our webinar, and we will be starting shortly. All righty. So thank you everyone for joining our program, Exporting. For today, I am Eileen Villa from the Maricopa SBDC, and I will be the facilitator of this webinar. I will be monitoring the chat throughout the webinar. So if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the Q&A so they do not get lost in the chat. We will now be having Tom give us a great introduction of the SBDC and all that we do for our clients. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Eileen. Appreciate it. Can you advance one slide? Perfect. So I'm here to just tell you a little bit about the Maricopa SBDC before I turn it over to Carol for today's workshop. And I'll see you again at the end. So my name is Tom Fulcher. I'm a business analyst with the SBDC, part of the export team and part of the capital team. As part of the export team, I'm also a certified global business professional, have a lot of export experience in my background, though not as much as our speaker today. So the SBDC is part of America's SBDC Arizona network and certainly part of America's SBDC network. We, as our core offering, provide one-on-one counseling with a business analyst at no fee. So whatever it is you might need help with, whether it's, of course, people often think about us with lending, or if you're raising capital, or if you want to talk HR, operational, marketing, or any issue with your business, whether you're an existing business looking to grow the next level or a startup. Of course, you're here because we also offer assistance in export. We have 15 counselors here in Maricopa County, and we're adding a couple more. So we continue to serve the entire county. We have locations around the county, but right now we are meeting Zoom and Google Meet and things like that. We're meeting virtually. Arizona's SBDC also has 10. We offer a wide variety of training, and of course, you know about that training, and you'll see more in follow-up emails about additional training offerings. And we have a wide variety of resources, everything from tools like Profit Sense, where we can put in your financials and compare those to others in the industry and geography, to tools like Compass, which will help you do export market research, and a variety of other tools. You can find out more about us at the MaricopaSBDC.com. That's Maricopa-SBDC.com. So welcome, and with that, I will turn this over to Carol for today's program.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Yanxin Leisure-Pu, and everyone call me Carol in my center. So just feel free to call me Carol. I think that's probably easier for you. And then this is a little bit about my background, and I will not spend a lot of time on myself. Let's get started. So first, I want to give a definition of export, because when I work in my center, I see a lot of clients I would say our clients came to my office, said, hey, Carol, I'm exporting and I want your help. So, but they do have a wrong impression about exporting. Exporting means the goods need to cross the country border. If you sell something from Arizona to Florida, that is not exporting, that is a domestic sales. So the exporting is if you sell something from America to Mexico, to Europe, to China, you can do it via California or via Florida, the ocean cities, but the goods need to be out of the country. So that is a definition for exporting. Like if you are buying from Mexico or Canada and sell to Europe and Southeast Asia, even it's nothing to do with America, that is still exporting. So it goods need to cross the country border. That is means exporting. That is the export we are talking about today. Okay, let's go to next page. So export procedures. I summarize export procedures into 4 steps. Step 1, you make a business plan. You also can call it a feasibility report. It means from that report, you will find out if you are able to make the business working. I mean, like you can make a profit or not. That is step 1. The second step is get the company ready for export. So if you want to sell something to overseas, before you really can make the deal, you need to start to prepare your company. Like you need to have an entity. You need to have an account, which the bank account, which is able to receive foreign currency. You need to have a whole bunch of staff, I would call backup office, to able to handle the export documents. Maybe you need to register with the USDA, or you need to register with the FDA before you can sell your product overseas. So after the first step, step 1, step 2, then now you're going to talk to your buyers overseas. You start to negotiate with the terms, and then you can sign a sales contract. So that's the most fun part. You can make a deal. Now you can see the money is coming. And then after sign the contract, you need to prepare yourself to ship the products, and then you need to get paid. So we are talking about these 4 steps for the physical goods exporting. If you're a service company, you probably only need to do step 1, and you jump to the step 4, ship your product, get paid. Because if you're a service company, you only need to see if your service will be acceptable by a buyer or not. So you don't need to really ship the product, or you don't need to get your company really ready for exporting. So we will talk about it later. But in general, these 4 steps are the export procedures. So let's talk step by step. Step 1, you need to have a business plan. Right? I see a lot of people writing business plan like for 20, 30 pages. But if you summarize it up, it's really only these 3 questions. First question is, where can I sell? You need to find your destinations, right? Your target country or target industry. And then when you export the physical good overseas, you need to contact the country which have a trade agreement with the USA. Otherwise, you will not allowed to do business. And then the second question you need to answer in your business plan to yourself is who can I sell to? So what role you are going to play? Are you going to be an agent or a distributor, a wholesaler, sales representative, or brokers? So you need to find out where your business plan, which is the best role for you to play in this whole deal. And then the relationship between you and the supplier, means the manufacturer here, you can be like a sole distributor, like a sole agent for them in a certain country, or they have sales representative in a certain country already, you only can be a broker. So all these roles, you need to find out by yourself in your business plan. While you're writing it, you find the answer for yourself. This is a question too. So by answer these questions, you will find out who is your potential buyers, because like when you see what role you're going to play, then you will know who you can sell to, right? So the third question you need to answer to yourself in the business plan is, how much money do I make in the whole deal? So you need to calculate your profit, and that will tell you if this business is doable or not. So you just simply calculate what is your target sales price in the destination, and you minus the logistic costs and minus your financial costs and the handling fees and the product costs. So to see how much profit you will get. And if the profit is, I would say, a certain percentage, 5 or 10% of your sales price, it might be doable. And you need to compare it, how much you can make the sales domestically to overseas. If this is really exporting, it's make more money for you. Some business is not, I would say, like in certain industries, exporting maybe not is the best option for them. They probably make more money sell domestically than export to other countries. So you need to do a comparison by yourself. Is it really worth to export? And also you need to compare the destination countries. I give example, you sell to China, it might sell a good quantity, but doesn't mean you get a good profit. You sell to Japan, you have a fewer quantity, however, you can have a higher profit. So that is the decision you need to make by yourself ultimately. And then this is what the business plan will do for you. Like you need to do all these calculations to answer all the questions in your business plan. Then you make a final decision. Hey, this is a doable project or not. So this is the step 1 for the business plan. Let's go to the next page. So I give an example how you find your target countries. Well, a lot of start, like we'll say like export starters, they have a question and they came to me and said, hey, Carol, how can I target countries? Which country should I focus on? There's a simple way to do that is you can run a report like this at census.gov, and to find a product you want to sell, you run a report. They will show you the history recorders, like history data, to tell you which country is the one buying the most from America. So I give example, like I checked for the wood export, and you can see they listed the top countries like China, Canada, UK, Japan, Mexico. These countries are on the top list, which are buying from America. So I will suggest you target the countries on the top list instead of the bottom of brands. Why? Because the top countries, they have the most buying history from America, means they have more buyers, or maybe a bigger volume. Will be easier for you to find the potential buyers than the countries who has a few deals done with America. So that will be save you a lot of time. So for example, like this example, for the wood export, I will target China, Canada, UK, Mexico, Vietnam, or Australia, these countries first. If indeed I cannot find any buyers in these countries, I might go down to the list to other countries. And by the way, our center had a new tool named Compass, can find you even the target company's contact information. Like I can run a report for you, who is the buyer in China, and I can share the buyers list with you. So when you try to talk to people, you know who you're talking to, you will get their contact information from us. So that will save you a lot of time too. Okay. So here is an example how to target the client. this is the first one I mentioned is that you can use the internet. Compass, that is the tool I just mentioned. It's a free tool for you. Like I said, I can run a report for you for a potential target country industry and even with the potential client list. So will be save your time and then when you reach out them. You can also use LinkedIn and Facebook, although Facebook is not so much for business, and also Facebook is not as popular and as in America, in a lot of countries in the world. Like probably America, people all know Facebook, but not all other countries know Facebook. So I feel LinkedIn is more professional for business than Facebook. But however, it's all you have options there. And then for the Google, of course, you can always Google things out. But Google has, I would say, less chance for you to find the target business directly, because when you Google it, unless you know the company name, you can find their website, right? If you just want to see potential buyers for something, and then Google is really not that helpful. You need to go maybe 10, 20 pages in order to find the target companies. But anyhow, that is a tool you can use. And the second way you can find your target client, I would highly recommend is a professional conference. So you join a certain industry, and then at this moment, I would say most of the industry will have a professional conference, and you can just pay a registration fee and join the conference. You will see the people in that industry. These are your target clients or your target suppliers. You just go to join them and join the conference and meet them in person. So for example, like the Soya 2022 conference, you go there, you will meet all the people who in the soybeans industry. And then, so that will be save you a lot of time and then join the industry immediately. However, the COVID might stop you doing this kind of conference a little bit, like face to face. However, I think next year the situation will be changed. So you still have a chance to go in person, to meet a person there, and then to attend a conference, like the Global Softwood Conference. So all these conferences available for other industries as well. If you have a question how to find the best one for your industry, feel free to contact Tom and me. We will give you some suggestions, right? The second way to target your client is exhibition. You join expo. You can pay for a booth and represent your company there. You know, and people, when they visit the exhibition, they can go there and shake hands and talk to you. So for example, there's one named the Global Pet Expo. It's always holding in Florida. So for that, if you join there, and all over the world, the people who interested in this kind of expo or in that industry will join, and you have a big chance to meet your target clients there. And if you have enough, I would say like a working capital, allow you to travel overseas, you can join expos in your target country as well. Here I mentioned like Shanghai Import Export Exhibition. It's just for your reference. So these kind of expos and all exhibitions is the options for you as well if you have enough funds to afford these expenses. Okay, let's go to next slide. So we are going to talk about the step 2, get the company ready for export. So for the export countries, you need to, you are an American company, you want to export to whatever country you target to. First of all, you need to meet the requirements for exporting country like American. So if in America, you need to have a legal entity, right? Then you need to have a tax ID. You need to have a bank account which can handle foreign currencies, because you cannot force all your buyers to pay you in US dollar. Like you sell to Canada, they pay you Canadian dollars. So you need to have a foreign currency bank which can handle the foreign currencies. So I have experience to dealing with several banks who had like the foreign currency bank account options for you. Not Wells Fargo, not Chase. For these two banks, these two big banks, they only have a US dollar account. So no matter how what currency you received from your foreign buyers, they will automatically transferred into US dollar into your account. So you will lose the exchange rate if you do so. You need to have, I would suggest you to open a bank account with, for example, like Citibank or HSBC. These banks will give you a foreign currency bank account. Like they can hold like a euro or Canadian dollars for you in that bank, in that account. Means you don't have to change the currency into US dollar if you see the exchange rate is not good. That will be help you save a lot of exchange rate. I would say like the money will lose when you change the money in the same day when the exchange rate is not good. So if you want to have a bank account with a foreign currency, come to Tom. For sure, he can give you like some referrals. You can get a foreign currency bank account, and then that will be save you exchange rate. Will save you money, not losing the exchange rate. And then if you're exporting food or even pharmaceutical products, you might need to have a USDA FDA account, register your products first before you can export to other countries. And then you may need some export permit or license. It depends what kind of product you are selling. If your product is related to high tech, or maybe you call the dual use, like the product can be turned into a weapon, or things like that, you might need an export license. So if you're not so sure if you need an export license or not, again, come to us, we will find out for you, okay? And then besides, you need to get your own company ready for export. You also need to prepare your importer, your buyers, because a lot of countries have regulations for importing. They need to have a special, they might require the product have a special treatment, like a fumigation. They need to have a special package or some labels in their languages. So you need to contact your buyers to make sure everything is ready for you to export. So a lot of prepared work you need to be, your buyers need to be doing before you really can ship the product. Otherwise, your product is shipped, sent to a country, and it will be stuck in the port. You cannot import. So double confirm with your buyer to see if your buyer is ready for import. I do have that experience before. The buyers doesn't know the import procedures, and I send a product to them, and they cannot customer clearance the product, and then my cargo is shaking in the port. And at the end, they reject to pay me. They refuse to pay me, and then all my money got lost. Okay, this is step 2. Let's talk about step 3. Sending sales contract. So normally on the sales contract, you have to mention things like this: commodity, what you are selling, and the commodity price, like a unit price. You're selling like per piece or per kilo, per pound. You need to have a price for the unit price, and you need to mention the quantity, specifications, and the package, how you want to pack it, like in a plastic bag or in a cardboard, things like that, the diameters you need to mention everything very clear on your sales contract. And you also need to agree with your buyer for Incoterms. Incoterms is the international commercial term, so short for Incoterms. And we will talk about that later, Incoterms. And also you need to mention their shipment period on your contract. It means when you're going to send the product to your buyers. And you also need to mention the documents, means what the documents you're going to provide it to your buyer, like bill of lading, document like a certificate of origin, like a certification of health, or like a phytosanitary packing list, commercial invoice, and or like the COA, certificate of analysis, all kind of things. You need to give your seller a list of the documents. And also on the contract, you also need to mention the payment term. This is very, very important because you want to get paid. And then in certain payment term, you need your bank to cooperate. For example, everybody talking about letter of credit, but not all the banks handle letter of credit. So you need to talk to your bank, receiving bank, to ask them, hey, can you handle letter of credit for me, and how much you're charging it? So you need to have your bank cooperate with you before you agree with a certain payment term. Same for document against the payment. The bank is the one collecting payment for you. So you need to get your bank ready before you agree the certain payment term with your buyers. If your buyers agree to pay you payment in advance, like the TT payment, and then you just get money before you do anything, or you don't need the bank cooperate, you just get your money, you make sure your money in your account, then you can go ahead for next step. But this is not common payment term, like a TT in advance. It's not a common term for international business. The most common one is a letter of credit, and the less common is document against payment. So talk to your bank before you agree payment term with your buyer. And then next thing, force majeure. Well, we all know what happened in the world at this moment. There's a war between Russia and Ukraine, and maybe a war in another two countries next day. We don't know. So force majeure is getting very, very important at this moment, because like the war is a force majeure. If you're shipping something to Europe, and then which is impact by the Ukraine and the Russian war, and the seller, you are the seller, the buyer might use that as excuses to reject your product. So the force majeure will be always a clause in the international trade business, and the war or like a float, everything like that is always be the one exempt by the in the contract, means the seller can, the buyer can use the excuses not taking your product. The same thing happened to the seller. The seller can also use the force majeure to refuse to ship. So you need to be careful when you sign a contract. Read the force majeure clauses very careful to make sure your contract is not impacted by that force majeure clauses. And the certain destinations policy, like the country's policy, is also maybe part of the force majeure clauses. And so that is negotiable or also questionable. So talk to me and Tom if you have questions. Although we are not lawyers, we can give you some suggestions or our own opinions about that. Okay, we are not lawyers. We are not giving you legal opinion. However, talk to us. We can refer you to the lawyers who can give you a better answer for that.
Hey, Carol, if I could add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. It is a legal issue. So you want to get advice on that on force majeure. I can give you an example. When the pandemic first hit, hotels and people who had booked the event at those venues, they were able to get out of those contracts due to force majeure. Once the pandemic had been going on for a while, that force majeure may no longer apply, and many hotels put in their clauses force majeure did not include anything to do with COVID. So, unfortunately, this war in Ukraine's been going on for a while. So as those things go on, don't make any assumptions about how long force majeure does or does not apply. Definitely get legal advice. Carol's very right in that.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Let's go to next, arbitration. So arbitration is very costly. I personally involved in 2 or 3 arbitrations. It's not I did it wrong, it's a company I used to work, it's a big company. And they went to the arbitration for several times. Normally the arbitration, they give a location, like it's England. And it's London in England. And then you have to appoint your own arbitrators and the other party for the arbitrators, and then the third one will be appointed by GAFTA. So the arbitrators is even more expensive than the lawyers here. So I would suggest you to negotiate with your buyers friendly in advance for multiple times before you really go to the arbitration. I don't want to see anyone really go into that, because that is a really shitty thing to do. So, but if you have to go it, you have to do it, right? But try to avoid that. My suggestion to you is that be careful with your contract terms, be careful with how you make sales, and then try to avoid the arbitration, okay? And then the last thing is the acceptance is for the time sensitive. Like for international trade, we all know we have different time zones. Now we are like 10 o'clock in the morning, but in the other side of the world, it's midnight, right? They have a time sensitive. And also for some products, the price are changing almost every hour or every day. Like the product I use to trade is the green, which is related to CBOT. You know how it goes. The price is changing almost every minute. So in our industry, the contracts only valid for 24 hours. If I give you a bid, if you don't take it in 24 hours, the bid ultimately gone. Like you won't be able to get it anymore. So be careful when you talk to your sellers. If your product is also price sensitive, tell them, hey, I only allow you to think about that, okay? This offer in the next 24 hours or 48 hours. If I'm not hearing back from you, then no deal. So make sure you mention this to your buyer, or even in the contract in writing. So this is only, I would say, like probably applied to certain industry. For some industry, you sell a car, the price is not change one day to the other. So you got probably a whole week to make your deals. So this is just to be careful if you are in a certain industry, time sensitive industry. Be careful with this term. If you're not, you totally fine. Okay, let's go to the next step. Step 4, ship the products and get paid. Once you finish step 1, 2, 3, now finally, and your buyers paid your LC, or you receive the money in advance, and now it's ready for you. It's time for you to get your products ready, shipped it. Now we need to pay attention to the insurance, because we don't want the product being lost. And who is buying the insurance? That was being discussed in the step 2 in the contract already. If you are the one need to buy the insurance, make sure you buy the insurance before the product leave your industry or leave your warehouse. If the seller is the one buying the insurance, tell them, hey, today I'm going to ship, like tomorrow I'm going to ship to you. You'd better give me a copy of your insurance before I ship it. So make sure you have the insurance ready before you really ship the product, because you don't want to run any risk there. And after you ship the product, you need to prepare the documents ready to present. So the documents is the one I just mentioned earlier, is the document you are writing in the contract. You need to get all the documents exactly as what you mentioned in your contract, because the LC, the letter of credit payment, is a paperwork based on papers. You need to send your papers to your bank. The bank will check one sentence by one sentence to see if there's a mistake. If a spell mistake, they will come back to you. You need to correct it. And until all your documents is in order, your bank will send your document to the buyer's bank for payment. So prepare documents is really a detailed work. You really need to have a person in your office know what he or she is doing. Otherwise, you will guaranteed not get paid because your documents are not ready. LC will not be executed. So make sure you prepare all the documents as what you mentioned in the contract. And then if you have a TT payment, like a payment against the document, like scan of document, you scan all the document, send an email to your buyer, said, hey, documents ready, please pay me. Give them an invoice, they will pay you. So that will be an easier way if your buyers agree to pay you TT, like a copy, or like a payment against a copy of a document. Okay, if you do LC or documents against a payment, will be more work to do because you need to use your bank. And then you need to make your documents as a set document, send it to your bank, make sure your career company not lost your document, you know, like all kinds of things you need to pay attention. So after you get your documents, represent your document to your buyers, you are waiting for your payment. So once they paid, basically the whole deal was done. I mean, unless later on they have like a claim or so, but we're not talking about that today. We just say normal, for normal business, you're done. You get paid, it's everything. So you're totally fine here after this 3-4 steps. So let's go to next step. I'm going to talk about suggestions, which I put here for the new exporters. So first of all, on the left-hand side, like let's assume this is your manufacturer, it's America. I put here like X work. This is the Incoterms, like international commercial trade terms for business. I'm using the Incoterms 2020 rules here to show you how this goes. If you are a beginner for export, I would suggest you to do the trend shorter. If you can sell X works or FCA's free carrier, means you load your product into your buyer's truck or containers, you do that. The shorter the trend is, the less risk you are taking, and it will be easier for you to handle the whole deal. The next one is FAS is a free alongside ship or free on board. Means you deliver the product to the port or to the shipment, the ships alongside the shipment, and you need, that is where you stop. And if your buyers in other countries, like in, for example, in Singapore, they really cannot handle the shipment. I mean, the domestic transport, like from your warehouse to Los Angeles, they will ask you to do it. And probably this is the term you are going to facing, FOB. you need to deliver a product to Los Angeles and to load it on the vessel for them. So if your buyers can handle the containers, everything like that, they probably take a FOB from you. Otherwise, you have to sell to next step, CIF. Like you need to pay the cost, insurance, and the freight, or cost and freight, no insurance. The terms like that means you have to deliver to the destination port. And then the worst case for you is that you have to do the last step is delivered at a place, or delivered at a place, unloaded, delivered, duty paid. So this is a DPU, DAP, and DTP. It's delivered at a place, delivered at a place, unload, delivered, duty paid. That's the basic means. You, like Amazon, put in front of your door everything you do. So for the beginner, the shorter the trend you're trying to do, the less risk you are taking. However, if you do the whole thing, you have more control. But if you don't know how to do the whole procedures, you just do the maybe like FCA or FOB at the beginning, or you can use like a middleman to help you to start the business, because the middleman who has experience in this in the industry, they can share their opinions, their experience with you. And while you're doing the several deals, the first 2 or 3, 5 deals, you can gather information from the middleman, you can learn from them, and then you can do, I would say, more deals in the future by yourself. You can do CIF or maybe even DDP deals. It means like you can more control of the whole supply chain, and then you can sell more products to the end user. You can have a higher profit. But for the beginning, if you don't know how to do, try to do like X work or like a free carrier, just load it to X warehouse. Okay. And then this is the shorter the transaction channel is, the less risk you are taking. Okay. So, well, this is all I have for today. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. And then Tom, if you can just finish, I would say like the presentation today, and then we give them time. We give them time for questions.
You bet. Thanks, Carol. So yeah, the next webinar in the export area is July 20th, researching and selecting markets. That's critical, as Carol described. But before we jump on, are there any questions out there? We have a Q&A tab you can place there, or you can put anything in chat if you want.
So we did have a question, Tom. Someone asking if this information will be shared after the presentation. And yes, I will be sharing the presentation as well as the recording after this presentation to you all. And you can, if you go to our website, you can also see a list of all the recordings of our previous webinars and programs that we have had.
Perfect. Thank you, Eileen. So feel free to post questions as we wrap up here, but you can see Carol's contact information there by email, and certainly drop something there. But we're moving around here.
I'm sorry.
There we go. So if you are not currently a client with us, if you are currently a client, you're not working with Carol or I, and you have interest in export, just let your current business analyst know that you want to talk to one of the export team members, and we'll be happy to join a session with you. If you are not currently a client with the SBDC, you simply go to that website, maricopa-sbdc.com, and click Request Counseling. And there is a form there to fill out that tells us a little about you, your needs, and your business. That comes into Eileen. Eileen takes that and will assign that to the appropriate counselor. If it is involved in export, make sure you put export in that needs area so we know that. That counselor will then contact you. Now, if you are in pure startup mode, still finalizing your idea, we may ask you to attend some of our startup workshops first. But otherwise, you'll get that initial counseling session where you can work with your counselor to develop your plan for the year and for counseling, identify your business goals and areas of assistance needed. And as I said, all of this is at no fee. And then follow-on sessions, you coordinate with your counselor how often. And my suggestion is schedule some on a regular basis, and then ask for others on an as-needed basis as topics come up. You may find you work with your counselor once a month, but if you're in the middle of heavy negotiation or some other issue like lending, you may find that you're talking to that counselor once or twice a week as you get through that part of the process. That's all included. Don't worry about it. And if your counselor sees a need to bring another counselor in for co-counseling, we will do that. The important part is tracking of business goals. So as we are funded by the SBA, we do ask all of our clients to share their financial data with us. That's your sales, capital development, whether that's loans, equity investors, your own investment, jobs created, jobs retained, all those sorts of things. All of your information is confidential, but it is aggregated with everybody else's information shared with the SBA. So we can demonstrate to them the fine work we are doing, supporting your businesses here in Maricopa, and continue to receive funding to do our job and be here for you. And as a quick reminder, counseling is by appointment only. Yes, although we do have offices around, it's not a walk-in. So most of the counselors do have an appointment setting tool they can provide you, but counseling is by appointment only. So, thank you. Feel free to post any last minute question. With that, I'll turn it back to Eileen, who will wrap us up.
Yes, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Tom and Carol. As I have mentioned, if you would like to reach out, please feel free to send a request for counseling for any of your business needs at www.maricopa-sbdc.com. Once again, www.maricopa-sbdc.com to fill in a request for counseling. Thank you all again, and we hope to see you at the next one. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.